FahrenHYPE 9/11 and Michael Moore Hates America movie review. So these are actually two different movies that I'm kind of reviewing together. Both of them have a common theme. Both of them are conservative movies that kind of came out in response to Michael Moore's film Fahrenheit 9/11. So I gave a mostly positive review to Fahrenheit 9/11. I had some caveats, but it was mostly positive. But I think that we have a responsibility to expose ourselves to the other point of view in political debate. So because I had watched and positively reviewed Fahrenheit 9/11, I thought I should watch the movies that were critiquing it. Ideally, everyone should do this, although I recognize not everyone has the time or energy or interest to kind of sit through all this stuff. And this kind of stuff is interesting to me, and I'm interested in the back and forth because I'm kind of a political junkie. But I think this polemical stuff isn't always healthy, and it's not always presenting a fair picture of stuff. So if you prefer to kind of watch more serious political commentary instead of these kind of intensely partisan movies kind of taking shots at each other, I think that's fair enough. Both of these movies, Fahrenheit 9/11 and Michael Moore Hates America, have some good points in them. And they do a pretty good job of showing all the times that Michael Moore was either not being completely truthful or when he was presenting a misleading view of stuff. Now, I had thought I was a pretty intelligent viewer of Michael Moore's movies. I mean, like I am a liberal, so I'm inclined to agree with him, but I thought I was kind of trying to kind of show where he was being unfair. But after having watched these movies, I've got to admit, they picked up on a lot of stuff that completely went by me. A lot of times when I believed that Michael Moore was presenting stuff at face value, turns out he was actually misrepresenting stuff. And I was giving him way too much credit by taking him at face value a lot of the time. Which, does kind of make me feel a little bit cheated by Michael Moore's movies. In my original review of Fahrenheit 9/11, I did put in a lot of caveats, but after watching these other two documentaries and kind of learning exactly how dishonest Michael Moore was being in a lot of cases, I wished I would have distanced myself even more from Michael Moore's film. I guess live and learn, huh? The problem with both Fahrenheit 9/11 and Michael Moore Hates America is that they don't just kind of stop with critiquing Michael Moore's factual errors. They both have their own agenda. So they kind of get their foot in the door by purporting to be a critique of Michael Moore's movies. But then kind of once they kind of get going, then they kind of ramp into their own agenda, which is a bunch of kind of patriotic, flag-waving, America is the best country ever, going to war with Iraq was a really good idea, kind of all this stuff. Now, I guess I'm mostly thinking of Fahrenheit 9/11, which is more intent than the other movie on kind of going off on its own agenda. Fahrenheit 9/11, for example, includes a speech by Zell Miller, in which Zell Miller talks about how he found a nest of poisonous snakes under his porch. And he took unilateral preemptive action against the snakes without consulting the United Nations because he knew the snakes were dangerous. See, first of all, this has nothing to do with Michael Moore's movies. We're going completely off the tangent now into just kind of a defense of the Iraq War. Second of all, that's a stupid analogy. And third, You know, the Japanese already tried the idea of a unilateral preemptive war. The Japanese argued that they knew war was coming with America, so it was better to just preempt it with a surprise attack. And the Far East Military Tribunal, the Tokyo trials after the war, did not consider this a legitimate justification. So this argument has already been tried before, and the World Court has decided against it. Still, you know, you've got to admit Michael Moore himself kind of opened the door for all that. If he had made kind of a tighter movie with less misleading stuff in it, then the right wing wouldn't have had the opportunity to make movies using this bait and switch technique in which they're kind of trying to shoehorn in their own agenda. Now, the other movie, Michael Moore Hates America, is much more focused on Michael Moore himself. And it tries to actually out-Moore Moore. So it tries to use a lot of the dirty tricks that Michael Moore made famous and use them against Michael Moore. For example, the whole frame of the movie revolves around this young up-and-coming filmmaker who's just trying to get an interview with Michael Moore. And Michael Moore never sits down with him for his interview. Now this, of course, is the same tactic that Michael Moore used in his breakout film, Roger and Me. So, you know, it's almost fair game, kind of using this tactic against Michael Moore. On the other hand, of course, Michael Moore is never going to sit down for an interview with a film titled Michael Moore Hates America. He's way smarter than that. But it makes it very easy to kind of make Michael Moore look like the bad guy, just like Michael Moore made Roger Smith look like the bad guy. Another example, there's a scene in the documentary Michael Moore Hates America. Michael Moore is being interviewed by MSNBC. And he's asked if he'll just agree to sit down and do an interview with Wilson. Wilson is the guy making Michael Moore Hates America. Michael Moore responds, "I'm not in anybody else's movies but my own." Now immediately they freeze the screen and a list of film titles scrolls across the screen naming several movies that Michael Moore has appeared in which is not his own. Now interestingly enough, one of these titles is Fever Pitch, which is a 2001 short film in which the actor-director Willard Morgan stalks his idol Michael Moore and fails to obtain much more than a brush off. Now, I'm quoting here from another source, but they said, if that counts as one of Moore's credits, then you can add virtually every film at the first annual Liberty Film Festival to the list as well. Now, you could argue that Moore is just getting what's coming to him. Moore does these kind of dishonest tricks in his own movies, so somebody else is coming back doing dishonest tricks to him as well. The problem is that we, the viewers, are caught in the middle of this. I mean, maybe Moore deserves this, but we, the viewers, don't. We, the viewers, deserve somebody to be honest with us, and we deserve somebody to give us a balanced critique of Moore. I don't know. It would be nice if somebody on the left would make a movie critiquing Moore, because I'm beginning to think you can't trust the people on the right to do it. They've got their own agenda. In the meantime, I guess the only thing we have is Spin Sanity. I know they've retired now, but their critiques are still online in their archives, and they do kind of in my opinion, a fair and balanced attempt to kind of critique Michael Moore's movies from a neutral perspective.